Happy Friday! I'm back with these video journals after a few weeks from hell, and it feels like I do that, like I'll come back after a few weeks from hell every couple of weeks, but this time it was seriously a series of really unfortunate events that happened. So number one, a few weeks ago, probably, I think it's been a month now, maybe a little less, but my grandfather, who was perfectly fine, has some abdomen pain, goes into the hospital. They tell him that he has a gallbladder infection and they put him on all these medications, mainly painkillers, and they tell him like it'll pass. He goes home and in less than 24 hours feels that sharp pain again, goes in and they tell him, we'll schedule you in for a gallbladder removal surgery or some sort of operation. And then he spends that night at the hospital, and in the middle of the night he walks up to go to the bathroom, and then he gets a heart attack. They try to revive him, it doesn't work, and he passed away, which is extremely shocking because he was perfectly fine, and to the point where even at the funeral his neighbors showed up and they said, oh, we had just seen him like fixing things on the roof the other day, and I had seen him the week prior. He was traveling to attend his grandchildren's graduations and he seemed perfectly fine. So that was rough. And then when I went to Jordan for the funeral, a bunch of things started happening that week. So first, my grandma on my father's side started to get these issues with both like with bowel movement, but also her urinary movements. And it was really rough. So she went into the hospital. She has Alzheimer's and dementia. And so getting her to understand what was happening in the hospital was really, really rough. And what was happening to her body and like the different things that they had to do were quite invasive. And so the combination of dementia and those ailments was truly a combination from hell. And so that was rough. And then shortly after that, my mom got a UTI. And then she went in, like she first of all started to take this one antibiotic that she was prescribed from a previous UTI, but didn't see any results and the pain was super sharp. So she went into the emergency room, no, the emergency, whatever. She went in and to the ER, and then she was put on an IV drip, and basically they ran a few tests to understand the nature of the bacteria, and they put her on a different kind of medication. And then basically what had happened was she was put on like a general antibiotic, and then a few days later, because she wasn't seeing results, she waited for the culture, like the bacteria culture test to come, like the results to come out. They came out and the doctor said, oh, it's a different kind of bacteria. So he gave her a new medication. And then she was having a rough night, and so she took like some Panadol or something to get her through the night. Anyway, the next day, I usually call her in the mornings to check in, and basically when I called her, usually like if she's driving, she'll say, I'm driving, I'll call you back. This time, I couldn't tell if she was driving, but her words were super, like they were slurred, like she wasn't making any sense. The words were disconnected. The pronunciation was messed up. Like, so I thought that she was maybe going through a tunnel and like the voice quality was just affected. So I asked if she was driving. She said yes. I said, okay, I'll call you in 15 minutes. About like 15 to 30 minutes pass. I call her again, and she was visiting my aunt at the hospital. Oh, and in this time, my aunt also goes to the hospital because she was having colon issues. And so my mom was visiting her, and then when I was speaking to my mom on the phone, again, she wasn't making any sense and the words were disconnected. And so my aunt takes the phone from her, and she says that your mom's with me, and it looks like maybe the medicine she's taking for the UTI is really strong because she seems drowsy. And for me, like, it felt like more than drowsiness. So I told my aunt, okay, she shouldn't be driving. Let me call my dad. Call my dad, tell him what I observed. He says he'll go see her. He goes and sees her. And by the time like a doctor sees her, a few hours pass, and she goes to a neurologist, and she goes back to the doctor who saw her for the UTI, who's really confused. Like, this is not a side effect to the UTI. But the neurologist was able to schedule a few tests, like an MRI and a few others, and was able to confirm that she had a stroke. And this obviously sets forth a whole saga of, she gets admitted into the hospital. They need to find the source. It could be like a vein in your neck, or it could be something from like a blood clot in your brain, or it could be because of something in your heart. And they start doing all these tests, go through the process of elimination, and they eliminate the neck thing. Yes, they see the clot in the MRI, but it looks like it passed. And so then they run a lot of heart tests. At first, the doctor says her heart is completely normal. Then him and his team have this like other huddle, and they start looking at the charts and stuff. And then they say that for about 8 minutes, there was a sort of like inconsistency in her heartbeat. And I think it's like, I forgot the technical term, but it's like arterial fibrillation or something like that. I don't know what the actual term is, but it basically could be something that she has been struggling with for a while, and somehow that like caused the stroke. Now, what they recommended was to wear this monitor for like a heart monitor for 2 weeks and be able to verify, but at the same time they put her on 3 medications, one for her hypertension, one for this heart thing, like a blood thinner, and also they put her back on cholesterol medication, which she had kind of stopped. But she was getting better every single day, as in like the speech, which was mainly impacted, and the memory we were starting to see some improvements. Like, she was able to speak in more full sentences. Yes, she'd blank out on certain words, but eventually she would find them, or like she struggled with repeating a lot, and she slowly was regaining that. Now it's been a week, and at first there were no side effects to these medications, but for the past few days, she's been so lethargic. Not able to get out of bed, not able to even sleep fully through the night, because she also started to struggle with allergies and was like coughing through the night, but she couldn't take allergy medication because it would clash with some of the medications she was on. And just generally not able to like move. And it was getting really alarming. So talked to the doctors. Now they're suggesting to stop taking the cholesterol medication because that could be a side effect. There's also like post-stroke fatigue. But what's weird is she was fine for like a week anyway. And like in this period, my dad had like a heart thing, and the doctor started saying maybe it's a panic attack because of all the stress. But I feel like there's something underlying, because it happened multiple times, and it happened like after the stressful period passed. And then my sister got a stomach virus and has been vomiting and like having a few other symptoms like a fever. It's been bad. Like, it all is happening within like a 1 or 2 day span from like between each incident. And my God, it's been absolutely wild and intense in the worst way possible. And there's like day-to-day like big things happening. So for example, there's my brother trying to figure out where to go to university, and that's been a whole thing with like numerous issues popping up. Like he hasn't done his SATs, he can't get his grades equalized, he's missing a bunch of papers, his passport isn't renewed for like visas and stuff. There's like so many issues. Like he's been talking to colleges and universities constantly, like almost on a daily basis, and my dad's been helping, my sister's been helping, I've been trying to help. It's like overwhelming, not to mention like the usual stuff with work and life and relationships, and just all of it all at once has been a lot. So coming out of that and then coming back to work and my house has been rough, because all I think about is what my family is going through and how my mom is doing. She does not feel like herself. Like she is barely speaking. Her mood is completely off. She's tired and physically exhausted, and currently trying to detox her body from the medication to see if that will help, and hopefully there's no underlying other issue, but she's just completely not herself. My aunt did a colon operation that's quite serious, but is now recovering, and so my grandma is like really stressed, taking care of her 2 daughters and worrying about them while also grieving her husband. It has been just like out of this world wild. And then trying to adjust back into my routine where work has been insane, like working almost 12 hours a day with like really intense and deep focus work and being dragged into so many different spaces has been a bit of a challenge. But anyway, I found myself today on a Friday. I had one call, but I feel so drained after the last few weeks that I'm not sure I'll be able to join it. It's not like a super essential call, but it's like a nice to have, like nice to join. So I don't know. It's part of a series, so I might not be able to join that one, but for me, the main thing is I don't know why I'm having this like weird kind of forward looking anxiety where I'm like imagining something going wrong with some of the mostly like professional projects that I'm working on. And like I'm going through, like my mind is just fixating on like one thing going wrong and like playing out how it would go wrong and kind of how I would respond. And sometimes when I'm in these situations, I draft my response, which is insane because the situation didn't even happen. Like it's completely a figment of my own imagination, and I'm like going through the motions in my head where I'm imagining what the person would say, what I would say back, who else would be on like the thread or in the conversation, and what would be their response and what would I say. And I like fully drafted my response to this fake situation. I do not know what mental illness this is. I have no idea. Probably some form of like doomsday prepping, although the situation is not doomsday adjacent by any stretch of the imagination, but it's like some sort of catastrophizing form of anxiety. I don't even know, but it's how I feel. Yeah. Anyway, it feels like at this point it's been a month from hell, not a week from hell. And I'm finding it really hard to even future plan because I can barely get through the day. Like I'm finding it hard to work on passion projects and to even plan a summer holiday or plan the next few weeks because I feel like not even knee deep, but elbows deep in like big life issues. And I'm generally feeling lost in like relationships, like keeping up with my friendships. I've been a little sad about a few friendships because I feel like friends haven't really been there. But at the same time, I've also like, maybe I'm the one who should check in. I don't know. I'm just like struggling with that. I feel like I'm in my early 30s and I still cannot maintain a friendship to save my life. Previously, I would blame it on the fact that I would move every like year or so it was impossible. But now I've been in the same country for a decade. Granted, it's a very transient place and people move a lot, but I don't know, maybe it's me. And what's crazy is I read this thing, it was like, to have a good friend, be a good friend kind of thing, which like, oh, okay, it makes sense. Like maybe I should improve some things, but at the same time, I don't know, it has to be like balanced in a way. Like you can't keep giving. And in friendships that I've had where I was more like on the receiving end rather than giving and there was an imbalance, I just never saw us as like true friends. And then vice versa too, like when I was giving too much and it wasn't equal, it wasn't a real friendship. And so I think you need a bit of both. You can't just like give and not take, and then you can't take and not give. Anyway, I digress. But I'm trying really hard to regain some sense of balance and normalcy. And I really desperately want to feel better about my mom and her situation. And I want my brother to feel more settled and my dad and sisters to have some normalcy. I don't know how things will pan out, obviously. But yeah. I think I'm gonna do a creative activity. I think that will help clear my mind a bit. And probably listen to a lot of Sabrina Carpenter, which has been my go-to person musically.